A queen is not just a female monarch, but a powerful figure in storytelling. Whether ruling over mythical lands or human kingdoms, these regal women captivate us with their power, elegance, and complexity. From the noble Queen Elizabeth I to the tragic Cleopatra, these literary queens continue to inspire awe and admiration centuries after their creation. Today, we're celebrating the iconic queens from literature to film and television. Throughout history, writers have created unforgettable queen characters that have become synonymous with the stories they inhabit. In Antony and Cleopatra, she is depicted as a passionate and manipulative queen who uses her powers of persuasion to influence Roman politics. Her relationship with Mark Antony is passionate but doomed, leading to the downfall of both herself and her lover. In Arthurian legend, Queen Guinevere is the wife of King Arthur, and her story has been told and retold countless times. She is a ruthless ruler with the ability to control the minds of others, and is driven by a desire for power and revenge. However, as the series progresses, it is revealed that she has a tragic backstory that led her down this dark path. She is known for her beauty and grace, but also for her ill-fated love affair with the knight Sir Lancelot. In the historical drama Elizabeth, Kate Blanchett portrays Queen Elizabeth I of England in a captivating performance. The film explores the early years of her reign and the challenges she faced, including religious turmoil, political intrigue, and threats from foreign powers. Olivia Colman and now Imelda Staunton play the Queen, portraying the weight of her duties and the personal sacrifices she has made for the monarchy. The series delves into the complexities of her relationships with her family, staff, and the public, offering a glimpse into the inner workings of the British royal family and the pressures they face. Elizabeth navigates these obstacles with intelligence and determination, establishing her place in history as one of England's most revered monarchs. Initially portrayed as shy and withdrawn, Elsa's true powers are accidentally revealed, causing her to isolate herself even further. She is a fierce and independent woman who defies tradition by hunting alongside her son and choosing her daughter Merida's suitors. However, her well-intentioned actions have unintended consequences, leading to conflict between her and Merida. Ultimately, Eleanor learns the importance of listening to her daughter and accepting her choices, demonstrating the power of letting go and embracing change. As the film progresses, she learns to embrace her powers and the importance of love and acceptance. They have taught us about the complexities of power, the allure of beauty, and the importance of following one's dreams. Which queens have inspired you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey through the realm of royalty, don't forget to stay tuned for more videos. Thank you for joining us today. Until next time, keep exploring the world of literature and film and all the amazing queens who inhabit it. As we look to the future, we can only hope that there will be many more iconic queens to inspire and amaze us. Idina Menzel's voice acting as Elsa is powerful and moving, capturing the character's inner turmoil and eventual transformation. The film depicts the final years of Marie Antoinette's life, from her arrival in France as a teenager to her execution during the French Revolution. Dunst gives a nuanced performance, capturing the lavish lifestyle and tragic fate of the young queen. Played by Natalie Portman, she is a diplomatic and strong-willed leader who fights for peace and justice in the galaxy. However, her tragic fate in the prequel trilogy makes her a pivotal part of the Star Wars lore, highlighting the themes of loss and the fall of the Jedi. The film's stunning visuals and haunting score transport viewers to a bygone era, immersing them in the opulent world of the French court and the tumultuous events that led to its demise. First, the evil queen from Snow White, a classic story by the Brothers Grimm. Unlike the traditional fairy tale version, this film presents Ravenna as a powerful and dangerous queen who will stop at nothing to maintain her beauty and power. Theron's portrayal is both mesmerizing and terrifying, showcasing the lengths to which someone might go to hold on to their youth and relevance. She is consumed by vanity and jealousy, obsessed with being the fairest of them all. Her desire for power and beauty leads her to order the death of Snow White, only to meet her demise at the hands of the princess's 7 dwarfs. She rules Narnia with an iron fist, plunging the land into eternal winter and oppressing its people. She is a temperamental and irrational ruler, notorious for her catchphrase, "Off with their heads," demanding the execution of anyone who displeases her. She embodies the absurdity and nonsensical nature of Wonderland, leaving readers questioning the logic of her actions and the sanity of the world she inhabits. But when the Pevensie children arrive in Narnia, they awaken the true king and begin the fight to overthrow her and bring about spring. Their forbidden romance creates a web of deceit, betrayal, and ultimately tragedy. The film imagines a world where Shakespeare falls in love with a woman named Viola de Lesseps, who disguises herself as a man to pursue a career in acting. The Queen, played by Judi Dench, is a supporting character who provides guidance and encouragement to Viola, recognizing her talent and passion for the stage. While the film's central focus is not the Queen, Dench's portrayal is memorable, capturing the spirit of the era and the importance of creativity in shaping history. Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are looking at the most iconic queens in literature and film and TV. Join us as we uncover the stories behind some of the most powerful and influential queens in fiction and real life. To start off, we'll look at some queens in literature. Cleopatra is one of Shakespeare's most famous characters. Moving into fantasy and mythology, Queen Jadis, better known as the White Witch, is the main antagonist in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the first book in C.S. Lewis's The Chronicles of Narnia. As the Elven Queen of Lothlorien, she is wise beyond compare and possesses the ability to see into the hearts of men. Her beauty and power are legendary, and she plays a pivotal role in guiding the Fellowship of the Ring on their quest to destroy the One Ring. Next, there's Galadriel in J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. From fantasy to science fiction, Queen Lavanna is the main antagonist in Marissa Meyer's The Lunar Chronicles. Finally, let's look at 2 fairy tale queens, and then the Queen of Hearts from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Now let's turn our attention to the big screen. Shakespeare in Love, a 1998 romantic comedy set in Elizabethan London, offers a fictionalized account of how William Shakespeare met his wife, Anne Hathaway, and found inspiration for his greatest works. Another recent series that centers around a queen is The Crown on Netflix, which follows the life of Queen Elizabeth II from her wedding to Prince Philip in 1947 up to modern times. In Marie Antoinette by Sofia Coppola, the titular queen is played by Kirsten Dunst. In Snow White and the Huntsman, Charlize Theron takes on the role of Queen Ravenna, a wicked stepmother who is consumed by vanity. Padma Amidala is the Queen of Naboo in Star Wars, first appearing in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Finally, let's not forget the animated queens. In Frozen, Elsa is the older sister of Princess Anna and the Queen of Arendelle. Queen Eleanor in Pixar's Brave is the Queen of the Scottish Kingdom of Dunbroch. From literature to film and television, these queens have captured our imaginations and left an indelible mark on popular culture. We've explored the fascinating world of queens in literature and film, discussing their impact on storytelling and the lessons they can teach us about life, love, and leadership. Last time we talked about various types of queens in fiction, and you guys gave me some great examples that I wish I had included. Today we're going to talk about some lesser-known queens worth noting, archetypes and tropes commonly found in queen characters, and some thematic comparisons between certain queens. First, Queen Maeve Bile from Irish mythology, best known through the epic Irish novel The Queen of the South by John Patrick Donahue, aka Sarah Waters. Okay, so firstly, I want to start off with some lesser known examples of queen characters that I think are definitely worth noting. We have Queen Akasha from Anne Rice's Queen of the Damned, the first vampire queen who awakens from her slumber in search of her maker. Lestat to Lion Court only to find him turned against her and leading a rebellion against her rule. These queens are not afraid to get their hands dirty and will fight alongside their people when necessary. These queens don't quite fit into the traditional expectations of what a queen should be. They may be too wild, too independent, or too different to conform to the status quo. First, we have Rhaenyra Targaryen from House of the Dragon, who is one of the most well-known examples of the queen character in modern times. As a young girl, she is next in line to inherit the Iron Throne and is even promised to her cousin, the heir of House Baratheon. But as we know from history, the world of Westeros is a very patriarchal one, and there are many men who oppose the idea of a woman taking the Iron Throne. And lastly, we have Aisma from Disney's The Emperor's New Groove, who serves as a more comedic take on the evil queen archetype. She craves power and will stop at nothing to obtain it, but her constant failures and dim-wittedness make her more of a source of comedy than genuine threat. In the recent Netflix series Queen Charlotte, we see a reimagining of the iconic character that adds depth and complexity to the original story. The series explores her rise to prominence and power her marriage to King George, her struggles with mental illness and the social issues of the time period, as well as the scandal surrounding her relationship with a black nobleman named Brimsley. Overall, the series paints a nuanced portrait of a woman who defies the expectations of her time and fights for what she believes in. However, they ultimately prove that being a good ruler isn't about fitting in, but about doing what's right. Again, this is only a small selection of the many, many queens in fiction. And I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe learned something new. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content. And again, if you haven't already, please check out part 1 and part 2 of this series, which I will link at the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye. And finally, we have the Shadow Queen, such as Lady Macbeth from Shakespeare's play Macbeth, or Cersei Lannister from Game of Thrones. These queens may not be the ones sitting on the throne, but they pull the strings from behind the scenes. They're often cunning, manipulative, and ruthless, and they'll do whatever it takes to achieve their goals. They understand the importance of strength and strategy and use it to protect their kingdoms. Then we have the tragic queen, exemplified by characters like Cleopatra from Shakespeare's play, Antony and Cleopatra, or Padme Amidala from Star Wars. These queens are often victims of circumstance, whether it be through the actions of others or the limitations placed upon them by their gender roles. Despite their tragic fates, these queens remain dignified and graceful, accepting their fates with courage and honor. Portrayed by the late Elia, Akasha is an immensely powerful figure who effortlessly commands respect from all who meet her, and is genuinely terrifying when she chooses to unleash her wrath. Next, we have Queen Ingrid from Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, the human queen of the Moors who is secretly waging a covert war against magical creatures after they attack her newborn son. Well, one of the most prominent themes is that of power versus femininity. Many queen characters grapple with the conflicting demands of their gender roles and their responsibilities as rulers. For example, in the film Elizabeth I is forced to choose between her duty to her kingdom and her desire for love and family. Another common theme is that of beauty as both a power and a curse. This is particularly prevalent in fairy tale queens, who are often judged primarily on their looks. While characters like Snow White are celebrated for their beauty, others like the evil queen are punished for their vanity. Lastly, there's the theme of the isolation of rule, where queens are often portrayed as having to shoulder the burdens of leadership alone, even when surrounded by family and friends. Both Queen Elizabeth II and The Crown and Elsa and Frozen struggle with the weight of their responsibilities and the loneliness that comes with it. Initially appearing as a kind and welcoming monarch, Ingrid is later revealed to be a manipulative and deceptive antagonist, willing to go to any length to protect her kingdom. And lastly, we have Queen Caroline from the 1994 film The Madness of King George, the devoted and loving wife of King George III, who is often the only one able to snap him out of his more intense and violent episodes, as the film details the slow decline of the king into madness. While not a central character, Helen Mirren gives a powerhouse performance as Caroline, grounding the film with her portrayal of a woman desperately trying to keep her family together while contending with a crumbling court and an unraveling husband. So let's start off with some from literature. Well, first of all, we have the noble queen, exemplified by characters like Galadriel from Lord of the Rings or Queen Eleanor from Brave. These queens are known for their justice, wisdom, and unwavering sense of duty. They often serve as the moral compass of their respective stories, guiding others towards the right path and making decisions for the greater good of their people. Then we have the evil queen, exemplified by characters such as the White Witch from the Chronicles of Narnia or Queen Ravenna from Snow White and the Huntsman. These queens are typically vain, power-hungry, and obsessed with maintaining their beauty. Their actions are often driven by selfish desires, and they will stop at nothing to maintain control and power. In Robert E. Howard's Conan the Destroyer, we have the seductive and dangerous sorceress queen, Queen Taramis, who uses her powers and sexuality to manipulate everyone around her in a high-stakes game of cat and mouse. Next, we have Queen Beryl, the main villain of the Sailor Moon manga, who was once the princess of the Moon Kingdom. However, after witnessing the death of her people and driven by her love for the dead King Endymion, she turns evil, becomes queen of the Dark Kingdom, and rules it with an iron fist until her eventual demise. Next, we have the wise and powerful Queen Alicent Targaryen from George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire universe, better known through the TV adaptation Game of Thrones, where she is barely given any screen time but still managed to be a fan favorite despite her small role. She is one of the most beloved rulers in Targaryen history and even features in a planned spin-off show called A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, The Hedge Knight, which will likely be set during her reign. There's also Queen Melaine from the French fantasy novel Cycle de la Reina by Pierre Bodes, a mysterious, seductive fairy queen who's also an elemental spirit of nature. And then there's the March Queen from C.S. Lewis's The Horse and His Boy, an underrated character who goes from supporting role in the book to fan favorite in the recent BBC radio drama adaptation. And if you haven't already, please check out part 1 and part 2 of this series, which I will link at the end of this video. Now, before I begin, there are some more honorable mentions that I just have to mention. And now let's move on to part 3, moving on to some queen characters from film and television. So, moving on, what are some archetypes and tropes commonly found in queen characters? Next, we have the warrior queen, a powerful ruler who combines martial prowess with political acumen, such as Queen Hippolyta from the Wonder Woman movie or Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones. We also have the outsider queen, such as Elsa from Frozen or Queen Susan from the Chronicles of Narnia. So, moving on, what are some common themes that run through many queen characters? And now we move on to some more modern interpretations of the queen archetype that I think offer interesting subversions of the trope. So that's my list of lesser-known queens from literature and film, common archetypes and tropes, and some thematic comparisons and modern subversions of the queen character. Hey, want to talk about something really fun? How we stereotype our villains. I'm gonna explain that later. It's really important to the point of this list. But first, let's talk about one of my favorite movies ever. I remember watching that episode and being confused and a little disappointed. Like, why would someone want to be Skeletor? I mean, have you seen him? He looks so uncomfortable. His hair situation is just awful. That's when I knew that there was no way that He-Man could ever hope to be anything other than a warrior. Do you remember in He-Man when he found out that his father was actually Skeletor all along? Akasha from Queen of the Damned is the original vampire and the mother of all vampires. Anne Boleyn, Catherine the Great, Elizabeth I, Lady Macbeth. There are so many amazing and diverse queens to choose from. In literature and film, Anne Boleyn is probably one of the most fascinating. What does it mean to be a queen in the context of genre? How do queer writers engage with the concept of royalty? Think Ciri from Kill Eve, who subverts the typical femme fatale trope by embracing her own narrative agency. Or Queen Elizabeth I, who defied the gender norms of her time by choosing not to marry. Take, for example, the Grand High Witch from The Witches, who defies easy categorization but nevertheless leaves a lasting impression on the story. Or the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland, whose nonsensical behavior adds to the story's whimsical nature. Join us as we delve into the fascinating history of the queen archetype and discuss how these iconic figures have left an indelible mark on our society. During the classical and medieval periods, queens were often depicted as symbols of power and allure. In more recent times, they've been portrayed as complex individuals facing moral dilemmas. As we journey through different eras, we'll witness how the portrayal of queens has evolved alongside societal norms and values. These queens remind us that there are many different types of queens out there. Also, if you're interested in taking a deeper dive into any of the topics we've discussed, feel free to check out the links in the description below. Your feedback is very important to us, so don't hesitate to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Thanks for watching and happy crowning. These queens challenge the status quo and refuse to be confined to traditional roles. Let's dive into those questions and explore some further categories. Take, for example, Gertrude from Hamlet, whose hasty marriage to Claudius contributes to the play's tragic downfall. Or the White Queen from Snow White, whose jealousy leads to her demise. These queens teach us valuable lessons about the consequences of our actions. She appears in shows like The Other Boleyn Girl and Wolf Hall, and is always portrayed as a woman who uses sex and seduction as political weapons. But even though she's often framed as a villain, we still feel bad for her. She's a cautionary tale of sorts, a woman who loses everything because of her desires and infatuations. From Cleopatra to Elizabeth I, Queen Victoria to Elizabeth Taylor, these women have shaped our world in ways big and small. Now it's time to explore the evolution of the queen archetype. Catherine the Great, on the other hand, is handled with more satirical comedy in shows like The Great. Think of Lady Macbeth from Shakespeare's Macbeth, whose ambition and ruthlessness have captivated audiences for centuries. Or Queen Victoria from Jane Austen's novels, whose portrayal of a strong female monarch paved the way for future generations of female leaders. These queens continue to inspire writers and readers alike. The series plays with the image of the Russian Empress as both a powerful ruler and a flawed human being. She represents the primal power of the undead and also erotic horror. Mombi from Return to Oz is a hilariously twisted and unsettling queen who swaps the heads of her victims. She's the stuff of childhood nightmares. And finally, there's the Red Queen from Resident Evil, a literal machine queen who's cold, ruthless, and controlling. Her evil is rooted in dystopian fears about technology and its effects on humanity. Today, we will be looking at how we write queens and discussing 10 types of queen characters. Fantasy gives us some of the most iconic and richly imagined queens. Here are just a few examples of how different cultures have represented queens throughout history. In the Bible and Ethiopian legend, the Queen of Sheba is famous for her wisdom and allure. She's a diplomatic marvel who travels to Jerusalem to test Solomon's wisdom. In the movie Solomon and Sheba, she's played by the legendary actress and singer Eartha Kitt. Queen Ramonda in Black Panther is a strong, proud, and elegant queen who balances tradition and modernity. She's a spiritual leader and a source of strength for her people. And lastly, Empress Wu Zixing is a historical Chinese empress who became the only female emperor in Chinese history. She's often depicted as a cunning and brilliant leader who ruled over a vast empire. We have Daenerys Targaryen from A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones, the Mother of Dragons, Breaker of Chains, controversial ruler whose story is ultimately about justice versus tyranny, Queen Sophie from Howl's Moving Castle. By Diana Wynne Jones, in some versions, her transformation into a witch gives her unexpected strength as a leader. And we have Queen Nelenia from Sailor Moon, a tragic moon queen obsessed with beauty who finds herself cursed into isolation. Each of these queens brings something different to the world they inhabit, whether through magic, political power, or simply their personalities. They force us to confront difficult questions about ethics, identity, and power. There are plenty of other lists we could have made. You can check out the playlist linked below if you do like to see our list of 10 evil queens. But today, we wanted to look at how queens are portrayed in storytelling rather than what their morals are. Okay, it's time for another installment in our series where we explore pop culture icons. Let's start out with a super broad category, fantasy queens. The Borg Queen from Star Trek. First Contact is a biomechanical monster who takes a terrifyingly intimate control over her collective. Queen Serenity from Sailor Moon is the benevolent Moon Queen who sacrifices herself for the greater good of the universe. And then, of course, there's Queen Amidala, better known as Padmé from Star Wars, who becomes a tragic symbol of idealism in a corrupt galaxy. Next up, we have our science fiction queens. Many of these queens tend to be very powerful, embodying either an empire or a hive mind. If you were hoping for something a bit darker, maybe you'd prefer our horror queens. Speaking of dystopias, we can't forget about our historical drama queens. When it comes to queens, you can't ignore the impact of culture. But wait, there's more. Here are some additional categories to expand your understanding of queen characters. First, let's talk about our badass queens. These are queens who defy expectations and break gender norms. Next, let's talk about our tragic queens. These are queens whose stories evoke pity or sadness. And let's not forget our unconventional queens. These are queens who don't fit into any particular category. Finally, let's talk about our literary queens. These are queens who have made a significant impact on literature. We couldn't talk about queens without discussing the incredible impact they've had throughout history. Starting from ancient times to the present day, the characteristics and portrayal of queens have changed drastically. Now let's go back in time and explore the timeline of queen characters in fiction. As always, there are many more types of queen characters that could have been included. So please let us know which ones you think we missed. We've talked about kings, so now it's time for queens, starting with some crucial do's and don'ts. Then we'll dissect some famous examples before ending with a toolkit to craft your very own. It's all coming up next. Now, as usual, feel free to pause this video at any point to take notes, do some writing exercises, or just daydream about crowns. And if you're new here, consider subscribing because why not? Part 1, the do's and don'ts of writing queens. Don't make them Mary Sues. Even powerful queens need flaws and limitations. So avoid making your queen too perfect. Let her be smart but reckless, compassionate but blindsided by deceit, brave but haunted by past mistakes. Resist the urge to make your queen solely defined by her gender role. Instead, prioritize what makes her an individual. Yes, she might be a mother, but how does that shape her decisions? She may be ambitious, but how does that conflict with her sense of duty or her own morality? Throughout the series, she successfully navigates the treacherous waters of King's Landing's court politics, outmaneuvering her rivals and securing favorable outcomes for herself and her family. Additionally, Cersei's strength lies in her ability to inspire both fear and loyalty in those who know her. While she is capable of great cruelty and vindictiveness, she is also fiercely protective of her loved ones and will stop at nothing to ensure their safety and well-being. This complexity in her character makes her a compelling and memorable antagonist. Despite the initial disconnect between them, they eventually learn to bridge the gap through honest conversations and acts of kindness. Elsa's abilities allow her to control ice and snow, but she also struggles with the fear of hurting others with her powers due to an accident that occurred during her childhood. This fear leads to her isolating herself from society, believing that her powers make her dangerous. This reconciliation highlights the universality of family dynamics and the challenges of maintaining close relationships in a world that demands constant sacrifices. She remains one of the most iconic and influential queens in Western literature, serving as a symbol of feminine power and allure. Her story highlights the complexities of love, war, and the dangers of political ambition. To begin, consider her title and realm. Is she a queen regnant ruling in her own right, a consort, a dowager, or perhaps something more unique? Defining her role will help establish her authority and influence. Once you've determined her title and realm, think about her personality archetype. This could be anything from a unique piece of jewelry to a particular way of speaking. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. By adding these small touches, you will create a more realistic and relatable character that readers will remember long after they finish your story. Is she a noble and virtuous leader, a cunning strategist, a benevolent mother figure, or perhaps a tyrannical ruler? Identifying her archetype will give you a framework for her character and how she interacts with others. Her signature ice palace symbolizes both her magical abilities and her emotional repression. Did she inherit the throne, seize it through conquest, or perhaps marry into her royal position? Understanding how she came to power will shed light on her motivations and values. Once you've established the source of her power, think about her core conflict. What internal or external forces does she have to overcome? Perhaps she's torn between her duty to her people and her personal desires. Or maybe she faces a rebellion that threatens her very survival. Developing common conflict will add depth and drama to her character. Elsa's story explores themes of self-acceptance and the importance of embracing one's true identity, regardless of how different or feared it may be. Is she a symbol of unity, strength, or perhaps tradition? Exploring her symbolism will help you create a more nuanced and memorable character. Additionally, think about what she fears being seen as. By understanding her greatest fears, you can create situations that challenge her beliefs and force her to grow as a character. Through her journey, she learns that true strength comes from accepting and embracing all parts of oneself, including those that may be perceived as different or dangerous. Consider giving her ambitions that defy typical gender roles, like a warrior queen who loves poetry or a queen bee who wants to study agriculture. Despite her intelligence and cunning, her ultimate downfall is brought on by her own arrogance and inability to recognize the strength of her enemies. Remember, your best characters are complex. They struggle with inner darkness, doubts, and conflicting desires. Cleopatra, the last active ruler of the Ptolemaic kingdom of Egypt, is remembered for her intelligence, wit, and fierce independence. Known for her striking beauty and magnetic charm, Cleopatra uses her allure to manipulate those around her, particularly the Roman general Mark Antony. Their love affair leads to political complications and ultimately contributes to Cleopatra's downfall. As the film's central figure, Eleanor embodies the values of bravery, kindness, and selflessness. As the queen, she feels obligated to uphold the traditions and customs of her people, even when they conflict with her personal desires. This internal conflict is evident in her approach to Marita's arranged marriage, which she believes is necessary to maintain harmony among the Scottish clans. However, as the film progresses, Eleanor learns to loosen her grip on tradition and embrace the idea of change and evolution within her kingdom. Ultimately, she realizes that true strength lies not in clinging to outdated traditions, but in adapting to the changing times while honoring one's core values. Throughout the movie, she demonstrates unwavering support for her daughter, even in the face of Mereda's rebellious actions. Explore pivotal moments in her life that formed her personality, including ones where she failed or made hard choices. This gives readers empathy and insight into her actions. Also, don't shy away from exploring the unique challenges queens face due to their gender. How have other characters treated her differently because she's a woman? Has she faced prejudice, double standards, or extra scrutiny? Cersei is a compelling example of a complex and unapologetically villainous queen. Despite facing numerous setbacks throughout the series, including the loss of her children and the destruction of her house's legacy, Cersei manages to retain her power and influence until the very end. She is characterized by her cunning, ruthless nature, and unwavering determination to protect her children and maintain her position of power. By portraying these challenges authentically, you'll enrich your character and potentially shed light on real-world issues. Don't rely on stereotypes. Don't neglect backstory. Queens, like everyone else, have had experiences that shape who they are. Okay, now let's move on to the fun stuff. Part 2, Detailed Character Studies. First up, Queen Cersei Lannister from Game of Thrones. One of the key aspects of Cersei as character is her undeniable intelligence and ability to manipulate those around her. Overall, Cersei's story serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition and the corrupting influence of power. Next, we have Queen Eleanor from Brave. Queen Eleanor is a quintessential example of a motherly queen who prioritizes the welfare of her people and her daughter, Merida. One of Eleanor's most defining traits is her deep sense of responsibility towards her kingdom and its inhabitants. Moreover, Eleanor's relationship with Merida serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of communication and understanding in parent-child relationships. Next, we have Queen Elsa from Frozen. Elsa, the Snow Queen, is a fantastic example of a queen whose powers and emotions are closely intertwined. As the film progresses, however, Elsa learns to confront her fears and accept her true identity as the Snow Queen. Lastly, Queen Cleopatra from Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra. Despite her tragic fate, Cleopatra's legacy has endured throughout history, often being romanticized in literature and art. Part 3, How to Create Your Own Fictional Queen Character. Let's dive into a step-by-step guide to crafting your own queen character. Next, consider the source of her power. As you continue to develop your queen character, it's important to consider her symbolism. What does she represent to her people? Finally, to really bring your queen character to life, consider giving her a signature detail. Now, before you leave, check out these related videos, which contain prompts and tips that will help you write amazing stories about queens or kings.